My final guest in Gordon Street tonight is an English singer-songwriter who gave the world such hits as Moonshadow, The First Cut is the Deepest, Wild World, Father and Son, Peace Train and Morning Has Broken. We're honoured to welcome to the show Yusuf Islam. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, some people might not have even realised you've been in Melbourne for a little while working on the musical Moonshadow.
Yeah, Moonshadow is it's the new musical. I've been writing it for about 10 years.
Right.
It's been a dream of mine. I think going back to, you know, where I grew up, sort of in the West End of London, you know, around the corner from Drury Lane and everything. So musicals are really big in my life, especially West Side Story. That's where it all began for me.
Yeah.
And the sort of pop star story was more or less a diversion away from that. So I'm coming back to what I wanted to do for so many years, and that is to write a musical.
And is it true when you grew up around Drury Lane, you used to just sit on the rooftop and listen to all the musicals coming out of the theatres?
Sort of, that's exaggerated slightly, but I did used to sit on the rooftop. I used to climb roofs, you know, and I used to look up at this kind of, you know, this night sky, and that's where my questioning started, I think. I just wanted to know where the sky ended. You know, where does the night end? And that, in a way, is a theme of Moonshadow in some kind of dark sense.
Yeah, because the boy in the musical spends a lot of time on the rooftops looking up at the sky.
Yeah, and he has this dream. And actually, the whole story is set in a world which is permanently night. You know, if you can imagine this world and the sun never rose,
right,
what would it be like? And there's this boy, this young man, you know, has a dream about this world, or how it used to be, with this golden ball of light, you know, which provides light and heat to everybody for free.
And this incorporates a lot of your songs.
Oh, does it? I mean, you know, because that's, I mean, in the end, I ain't going to be around forever. And I wanted my songs to have something to carry on and to kind of be sung live.
We do have some footage of, I think it's behind the scenes, of the preparation for Moonshadow, the musical.
Yeah, the rehearsals, yeah,
yes.
which we're engaged in right now, yeah. So you got a little snippet of that?
Yeah, this will give you an idea of what you're in for. There's an interesting thing that goes on with you in that, from an early age, you said as a boy you were always looking for something bigger. You were looking for the answers to the universe.
Yeah.
And then, so you became a pop star.
Yeah.
But then when you had TB, tuberculosis, that changed your style somehow.
True. I mean, in a way, I always felt that maybe you felt the same, but it was like when I wrote songs, I got to a great place, you know, really great place, just me and the guitar. And then, like, it was like, at that time it was 60s, so, you know, I joined the Carnaby Street, you know, mob, and I ended up with a velvet suit and, you know, with a band behind me and the big kind of arrangements, but it wasn't me. So, in a way, TB came along, took me out of that world, because suddenly I got this terrible medieval disease.
Yeah.
And they gave me these horse-sized tablets to kind of get well. And I did get well, but when I got well, I then said, I want to control my sound, I want to control my music. And that's when I wanted to get back to just doing it with the guitar, and that's where it changed.
Did you feel like, because I know that you've received a lot of prizes for your contribution to world peace, did you feel as though going back to music would be a bigger or better contribution to the world than...
Well, to be honest, it was like when my son came back with the guitar in the house. I didn't have a guitar for like 20 years or whatever. You know, I just gave it all away, and I was busy doing charity, you know, schools, education. But then it came to the point where, yeah, music can't change the world, but it can give us an idea of what kind of world we want to develop. And I think that's to do with inspiration. That's our job.
Well, when I sang earlier, Yusuf...
I miss something?
Well, you did. You did. It was pretty amazing stuff. And I realised just how easy it is to sing.
Well, I was going to ask you, when did you realise that comedy was your contribution to the world and not law?
I don't know whether it's a contribution. I think it's a subtraction from the world.
I'm not going to contribute at all.
I forgot we had someone else on the show.
Moonshadow, I don't know if anybody else had this. When I was at school, there was a book that went around called Sing, 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 and once a week we would all sit down and we would sing from that. Did you guys? Yeah. And that was where I first came across Moonshadow.
Wow.
And so since the age of probably 6 or 7, that song has been in my bones.
Well, you know how I wrote that song?
No.
It was, again, growing up in a city, I never really was exposed to the country. You know, like I was an urban boy, and so for me, light came from street lamps.
Yeah.
So then when I took a little trip to Spain between tours at one point in 1970, whatever, and it was a kind of a beautiful moonlit night, and suddenly I looked down and, whoa, there he was, Moonshadow, and I thought, I've never seen him before. It was the first time I realised that the moon cast a shadow. So call me dumb, but that's the story. And then I wrote this song, and it's a very optimistic song. I'd say that's, I hope, the legacy that I want to leave, and that is to do with optimism.
Yeah.
So no matter what situation, I met Christopher Reeves,
Yeah. That played Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his condition when he was like really, and I sang that song to him, and that was like a very profound moment. Because there you are, if you lose your hands, you lose your legs, what are you going to do? You've got to look positively at everything.
Well, and again, when you don't know exactly what your contribution is to the world, you just do what it is that comes naturally, and 9 out of 10 times that's actually what people will take something away from.
Yeah. We've got to work hard too, the music business is another thing, and that's really perhaps one of the reasons why I left, because it is kind of like a business. And when you're in the business, it's like a treadmill, and you've got people, who really their ambition is only to make money. I like making money, but that's not the only goal, and that shouldn't be the goal of music. No, it's the goal of music was to entertain yourself and to enjoy it and to spread that and to share it with others.
Why can I, Adam, do you mind if I ask, why did you, I can understand the business, but why did you not have a guitar in the house for so many years? That would have been a private thing that you could have given to your son.
Everything that music, for me, music led to was a path, And when I found, like, one of the main destinations on that path, I kind of went, well, hang on, the instrument that brought me here, is not that vital anymore. And so now, like, instead of singing about living, I started living.
So it was actually when your son brought a guitar home for you?
Yeah, then later, so I'm now a citizen or a resident or whatever of Dubai. And suddenly one son came to join us there for a holiday thing, and he brought this guitar. Yeah. And suddenly, well, it was the morning, no one else was around, just me and the guitar. So we're eyeing each other, and I had to make the first move. And picked it up, and it was all there. And I went, I found F again. I mean, F meaning the chord. And I went, whoa. And I started, singing some of the old songs.
Yeah.
And it just started gushing out, I just started feeling so good. And that's where it began again.
Yeah. How old was your boy when he visited you with the guitar?
17, 18.
And he would have heard, presumably, CDs, records, he would have heard your stuff.
He's a fan. He's now my manager, to be honest.
He really?
Yeah, no, really. We've got a thing called Tiller Management. Yeah. And he's my manager.
So he's the one on the phone going, Dad, get out there and work.
It's all about the money.
Well, partly.
What was the moment where you went, OK, this is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous level of fame right now?
I don't know. It was like possibly when I saw that people were looking at me differently from the way I felt sort of inside. I felt more humble, in a way.
Yeah.
And so I tried to keep my grounding. for that reason, I kind of snuck away, and I didn't do too many interviews, and I didn't come out that much. I didn't party because I wanted to keep myself kind of together.
What about when, say, for instance, you're looking at the guest list of people that are turning up for one of your shows?
Yeah, well, you know, it's like, it was amazing. You got the Jaggers and you got the Lennons, and at one point there was this terrible incident where I think I'd just done Madison Square Gardens, you know, and there was this party afterwards. I had to go to my own party, and then I told the roadman, I said, look, make sure nobody comes in who's not on the list. So he said, right, okay. And then later I find out John Lennon comes in and says, and he wants to get in with Yoko. And he says, sorry, mate, but we can't with this.
And now, just before we go on, I do know that you're talking about, it just brought back to my mind, you mentioned that you had a moment with Christopher Reeve. And I think, Sean, I've just remembered, you had a similar moment with one of Australia's sporting icons, Don Bradman.
I don't imagine it was as moving as Yusuf's moment. I feel like I'm competing with you now.
No, tell us.
Well, Don Bradman lived in Adelaide, and he retired and lived in Adelaide. He lived in one of the eastern suburbs of Adelaide. And I won't say where he lived because people might... Well, he lived in Rose Park. 25 Alexandra Avenue, Rose Park. And a friend of mine lived nearby and grew up, and he always knew that Don Bradman lived there. I was at university, and there were some O-Week celebrations. We were a little happy, and we drove past, and we happened to be on Alexandra Avenue. He said, Don Bradman lives there. And I said, he doesn't live there. He said, he does live there. He's a free... You know, I know. I used to deliver the paper to him. So we pulled up, got out, knocked on the door, saw Lady Bradman, who then went and got him. He was in the back shed, I assume, signing bats. Came out and... G'day, fellas. How are you? Hello, Sir Don. It was very nice to meet you. Would you mind coming out and playing a bit of street cricket with us? Thinking that he would say no, and indeed he did say no. But eventually we coaxed him out. I think he knew we weren't going away until... So we had a tennis ball out of the car. We used his bin that was on the sidewalk. He refused to bat, though. He decided only to bowl to us, which was rather perverse of him. But, you know, he got me out and I think my friend out. And I had a story which, when I woke up the next day, I thought, well, did that... In fact, it might not have been Don Bradman. Maybe it wasn't even him. Might not have been him.
So basically, as a small child, all you've ever wanted to do was write a musical?
It's always been a dream.
Well, we wish you every success for the musical, and I think people are genuinely chuffed that you've chosen Melbourne to premiere it.
Yeah, we love Melbourne.
Ladies and gentlemen,